that is a totally meaningless gesture. You can get 100 votes here in the Senate. Won't mean anything because the House is not going to take it up, and the President of the United States certainly will not sign it.
At the very moment that they do that final vote, I will call all House members to return to Washington as quickly as possible. We'll give a 36-hour formal and official notice so that we can vote as soon as possible to pass the amended CR bill and get it to the president's desk. As you all know, and he said as recently as last night, I was with him, and he told the press, he said, we want to get the government open. He's very anxious to get the government reopened and to end the Schumer shutdown. We all are. With regard to the travel challenges, I spoke yesterday at some length with Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, my former colleague and good friend, and he lamented the serious situation that we have with air travel in the U.S. He's bent over backwards, as all members of the administration and the cabinet have done in all of their areas of jurisdiction, to try to keep the government working for the people and to mitigate the pain and the harm. But the problem we have with air travel is that our air traffic controllers are overworked and unpaid, and many of them have called in sick. That's a very stressful job, and even more stressful exponentially when they're having trouble providing for their families. And so air travel has been grinding to a halt in many places. And as of Sunday, nearly half of all domestic flights and U.S. flights were either canceled or delayed. And it's a very serious situation. So I'm saying that by way of reminder. I'm stating the obvious to all my colleagues, Republicans and Democrats in the House. You need to begin right now returning to the Hill. We have to do this as quickly as possible. Now, we look forward to
Okay, we're going to pull out, but we'll keep monitoring these remarks as a part of Speaker Johnson's daily presser. He did address the shutdown, saying he's going to give House members 36 hours after the Senate passes this bill. Allie, why isn't he calling them back right now?
Well, I think he did just say at the end there, I think it's important that you start coming back right now. I don't know if I maybe misheard him, but that felt notable to me because his members are on 36 hours notice. And I think it's clear that they know the Senate's going to do something. I think the weather and the flight delays that we've been talking about are also going to end up being important here because sometimes 36 hours might not be enough. I know my parents were flying. They got majorly delayed. That's just one of thousands of stories like that. And so members are not impervious to travel woes. Even senators have gotten kind of locked down in the delays over the course of the last few weeks. So I would have to go back and listen to the speaker there. But look, if he's not calling them back today, he's probably going to end up calling them back tomorrow or the next day. It's no secret what's going on here. I think the thing that ends up being interesting is what does the path forward look like when it comes to the outcry against potentially Senator Schumer as the leader of the Democrats. I know already I've gotten some text messages from sources unhappy with the way that he handled this, despite the fact that he himself handled it completely opposite from the way that he handled it back in March, voting no against it. And then, of course, what do House Democrats do? This is not the ideal deal that they wanted, and already many have been vocal about that, too.
Well, and he just left without taking questions, so lots of developments to come on the Hill. Thank you, Allie Vitale. Double check for us, too. I want to make sure we get those remarks accurately reported. Thank you. And so, Laura, we know this isn't a done deal just yet. SNAP remains in limbo as well. The administration is now fighting in court to get out the, full SNAP benefits. They don't want to pay all of those, but now they're also picking a fight with the states that did pay the benefits. Get us up to speed on all fronts.
Right, Anna. So on Friday, after initially sending out guidance, the Agriculture Department saying to states that they were going to be able to pay full benefits for SNAP. Then on Saturday, USDA, the Agriculture Department, again sent out another memo saying, actually, never mind, we don't want to pay full benefits. And in that memo, they said that if states made full payments, that, quote, this was unauthorized, states must immediately undo any steps taken to issue full SNAP benefits. And if they didn't undo those full SNAP benefits, then USDA would take various actions, including canceling the federal portion of the cost for those payments. So this seesaw back and forth that leaves millions of Americans in limbo. But again, some of those payments have already been made. And this all comes as just late last night, a federal appeals court said that the administration cannot block full payments. Now, that ruling doesn't necessarily have any immediate effect. The earliest that full payments would be able to start going out is Tuesday because of the fact that the Supreme Court has a temporary hold on these full payments and is waiting for another response from the administration. As of about 11 a.m. is when they say that they want to hear whether or not the administration is going to ask for another stay because of this late night ruling by an appeals court last night, Anna.
And Laura, any word at this point from the White House reacting to this deal hammered out in the Senate?
No, I mean, other than the White House appears to be ready and wanting to have a deal done and on the table. The president last night saying that he's hoping that they could come to an end to the shutdown very quickly, Anna.
Laura Barone-Lopez, thank you. Alex, despite this Senate breakthrough, yesterday was the worst day yet for air travel. How bad was it, and how soon should passengers expect things to improve?
Well, Anna, as anyone who was at an airport on Sunday will tell you, yesterday was an absolutely heinous day for air travel. We're talking more than 10,000 flights delayed, more than 2,800 flights canceled, with Delta hit particularly hard, with more than 50% of their flights impacted, either canceled or delayed. Actually, just moments ago, a woman walked by me and whispered, "My flight got canceled 4 separate times by Delta here at Orlando International Airport yesterday." Now, the FAA is trying to preempt this travel chaos situation on the front end. They're mandating airlines cancel at least 4% of their flights right now. Tomorrow, that'll tick up to 6%. On Thursday, that'll be 8%. By Friday, they will have mandated airlines to cancel at least 10% of their flights preemptively, but those are just the preemptive cancellations. They're not to mention the unexpected cancellations and the hours and hours of delays that have been ravaging airports across the country. Now, I talked to Douglas Lowe. He's a union member from the Aviation Technician Specialist Union, and he told me not to expect for air travel to go right back to normal once the government reopens. Take a listen.
Definitely long-term damage from this shutdown. It's never a good thing to shut the government down. It costs more money and it costs more problems in the long run. Probably within a month or so, things will get better. But I don't think the next day the shutdown's over, it's not immediately going to appear everything's green, because so much damage has been done to a point that there might not be people who come back.
And you heard Douglas say there not to expect everything to turn green, as you may be able to see on your screen. On the flight boards here in Orlando, green means the flight is good to go. Yellow means that there's a delay. Red means there's a significant delay that could lead to a cancellation or already a cancellation. So if you're at home planning a trip to Disney World, I might hold off for just a little bit.
Lots of colors on that board. Alex, thank you for bringing us the latest again from Orlando International Airport. And joining us now is Sarah Nelson, president of the largest flight attendants union in the country. Sarah, good to have you. We've talked a lot about the travel impacts due to the shutdown. So what's going through your mind this morning now that there appears to be a deal?
I'm thinking about the flight attendants on the front lines and the agents who are going to be dealing with the outcome of these flight cancellations and delays. I'm thinking about the air traffic controllers and the TSA officers who have gone without pay. And our members are also some receive SNAP assistance. Our members also are looking at increased premium costs. So this has been the level of cruelty here to put workers on the front lines in the middle of this every which way and not have Congress come together and reach an agreement at the beginning of this. This shutdown was unnecessary. We could have simply addressed the crises that were in front of us and avoided all of this. And that is not what happened. Instead, they drug us through 40 days of this shutdown, and Republicans failed to come to the table and negotiate on the crisis of healthcare and the other crises that Americans are going to feel all across this country, including our members.
I mean, is it like flipping a switch now that there's a deal? Once the votes pass and the president signs this bill, everything returns back to quote unquote normal?
Travelers and Americans should know that this is not going to return to normal. Just like my friend Doug Lowe just said, there is going to be extended harm here. There are people who are not able to continue, who will not be able to come right back to work, or have decided that this is not something that they can sustain with their families and have to look for another line of work. We're going to see an extended harm here for quite some time, because we went into this shutdown already understaffed with our federal government, and already with an attack on federal workers dismantling the program since January. So people should really come to the airport packing their patience and understanding that the people on the front lines are hurting too. United Airlines flight attendants, PSA flight attendants waiting for a contract that can help with some of these urgent needs that I was talking about, addressing the fact that they can't afford food, they can't afford their rent. But we can do that as a union and negotiate. And that is something that Congress needs to learn to do in order to do its job for the American people.
Sarah, the Transportation Secretary warned over the weekend that Thanksgiving travel was at risk for some people. Let's take a listen to that.
It's only going to get worse. I look to, the 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, you're going to see air travel be reduced to a trickle.
Do you have any sort of numerical idea of how many Americans will not be able to be with their families for the holiday because of this?
I think the number is going to be substantial.
Sarah, is that still a concern of yours as well? And what else do you want to see or hear from the Transportation Secretary?
Look, I appreciate that Sean Duffy has worked to keep us safe throughout this shutdown. When there is increased risk, you have to slow down the system. We do that on a daily basis, one flight, one airport at a time. This has been a grander approach. And Americans need to know that there will be a continued slowdown in order to keep people safe. So I would just ask everyone to please give some patience to the people on the front lines, because that is what we're doing. If your flight is delayed or canceled, it's because it is unsafe for it to go. And this is the situation that we're in. It is going to take quite some time to recover from it.
Sarah Nelson, thank you, and thanks to all flight attendants who've been working throughout this challenging time. We are following some breaking news now from the Supreme Court this morning, where justices have just denied to hear a case that, if it had been taken up and approved, could have overturned their landmark same-sex marriage ruling. I want to go to MSNBC legal reporter Fallon Gallagher. Fallon, remind us of the details of this case, and do we know why the justices denied hearing it?
Yeah, Anna, so this is the case that was brought by Kim Davis. She's that Kentucky clerk who notoriously refused to grant marriage licenses to same-sex couples. So she had been appealing to overturn that landmark decision that granted the right for same-sex couples to get married about 10 years ago. What's really interesting about the way that the court grants orders is that they're usually very short. So they'll deliver these long opinions when they have a decision, but orders are typically unsigned, no opinions, no dissent, nothing like that. And that was exactly the case that we got this morning. So you get a list of cases, and there are some that are granted and usually many more that are denied. And so you look at the denials and you see Kim Davis's name, and that's it. We don't know what their decision was. We don't know how it went in conference, but all we know is that they had that closed-door conference last Friday where they discussed the case, and 4 justices would have had to agree to take this case. So all we know is that 4 justices did not agree to take this case, and it will not be on the docket this term. Anna?
So what does this mean now for same-sex marriage? Is there any appetite within the court to hear another challenge down the line?
Yeah, this was certainly the biggest chance that we could hear of a case challenging same-sex marriage in the immediate future. This was the only one that would have been ripe and ready to go to the Supreme Court. That said, there has been some concern among the community about the possibility that the Supreme Court could take up a case like this, because you'll remember in the Dobbs decision, which overturned the national right to have an abortion, Justice Thomas wrote in his concurring opinion in that decision that there might be an opening to also overturn same-sex marriage on the same judicial philosophy that they used to overturn the right to an abortion. So this is something that it could come up again if the right case presents itself to the justices. But again, 4 of them would need to agree to take on this case for anything to happen.
And again, that did not happen in this case. Fallon Gallagher, thank you. Up next, rewarding loyalty. Who President Trump is pardoning for their efforts to overturn the 2020 election results. Plus, news from the Pentagon of more boat strikes and fatalities. Also, Trump's $2,000 plan. Will throwing money at Americans make up for the affordability crisis? We're back in 90 seconds. Stay right there.